In this WrestleTalk news, fans were more than slightly annoyed at last night's AEW Dynamite, more big returns lined up for WWE, and Ollie's review of Dynamite last night, which everyone loved.
Support WrestleTalk!
Ass boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they become your new AEW World Tag Team Champions? Oh dear. In the main event of last night's AEW Dynamite, the Guns dethroned the Acclaimed to become the new AEW World Tag Team Champions, and people were not happy about it. Aside from the stunned silence from the crowd, they eventually riled themselves up and were chanting bullshit at the finish of the show, which I'm reliably informed is not the reaction you want from fans. Ollie will be covering it more in his Dynamite review later here in the video, but for now, here's noted ass boys lover Tempest's reaction to finding out the news. This week's Raw saw the surprise return of WWE Hall of Famer Lita, making the save for Becky Lynch in her steel cage match against Bayley. While the return was far from expected, it is that time of year after all, a time when the WWE Hall of Fame bat signal shines in the sky, calling those trusty WWE legends to don their boots and tights for the grandest stage of them all. But what if WWE couldn't wait until Mania in 7 weeks? What if they just had to call out the big guns for, say, a week on Saturday at Elimination Chamber? Despite many assuming that the big return of Lita would result in a Mania match, it seems like WWE's plans are coming a lot sooner. Not only that, but it also appears that Lita may not be the only legend to compete at the Chamber. According to a brand spanking new Twitter account known as Worked Wrestling, which describes itself as a news source for wrestling leaks and news, the plans involving Lita, Becky, and Damage Control are set to also include none other than Canada's own Trish Stratus. The report, which was later given a shout out by Fightful Sean Ross Sapp, so there's some credence lent to it already, stated ahead of Lita's return that she would appear, while Worked would continue to reveal that a Trish return would take place on this week's Raw to then set up a match between Trish, Lita, Becky, and Damage Control at the Chamber. Despite the build to the match seeming a bit rushed on the surface, it does all seem to make sense, especially when taking recent comments on Wrestling Observer Live from Brian Alvarez into account. On the show, Alvarez revealed that the plan for Lita to return was always set to happen at the match's original date, at Raw 30. It was simply rescheduled along with the match itself. Finishing up with a rather juicy development elsewhere in the wrestling sphere, and a major new crossover show has been announced, once again involving New Japan Pro Wrestling. Only this time, their dance partner will be none other than Impact Wrestling. Forbidden Door, I guess? Yes, as we've seen, there is perhaps no more accommodating company in the wrestling world right now than New Japan. Not only do they obviously have the sure-to-be massive Forbidden Door 2 event with AEW coming up later this year, they've also managed to find a way to form an admittedly rather limited relationship with the big bad wolf of wrestling, WWE. And now it's teamed with Impact Wrestling for the suitably titled show, Multiverse United, Only the Strong Survive. The event is coming to the Globe Theatre in Los Angeles on March 30th, which, if you check your calendars, is just 2 days prior to WrestleMania on Saturday. Not only that, but several of the show's match card has also been revealed, with the main event seeing Impact World Champ Josh Alexander taking on Kushida, and in the co-main, former IWGP US Champ Will Ospreay will be squaring off with Speedball Mike Bailey, which is sure to just... oh, it's gonna be something else, isn't it? I'd like to think that that would make Tempest feel better after the Ass Boys news. And speaking of the Ass Boys, here's Ollie with the Dynamite review.
Thanks for your support on Patreon. He ran, Aaron Hanrahan, and the roller coaster, Robert Acosta. It's Thursday. You know what that means. AEW Dynamite Championship Fight Night, where multiple belts and belt opportunities were on the line. Or as Dynamite from last May through to December will call that many championships up for grabs, just Wednesday, in about 5 minutes. Championship Fight Night opens on a match without a championship actually on the line, with MJF versus Takeshita in a championship eliminator. But it did provide an excellent World Championship through-line for the whole episode, with Danielson versus Rush coming later on. This was Max's first match in 2 months since beating Ricky Starks back in December. He's so incredible on the mic and wrestles so sparingly, I'm always surprised at how incredible he is also in the ring. He always seems to debut 2 to 3 different awesome new moves, and actually had the spot of the whole night, on a night that also included the Elite vs Top Flight and AR Fox, where he effortlessly backflipped out of a top rope lariat and hit a super kick. He's got all the talent in the world. count, which makes it so outrageous that he takes every opportunity to cheat. After pulling the referee in his way a bunch of times and steadily working over Takeshita's bicep, he made him tap in the salt of the earth armbar, mirroring Bryan's own increasingly more injured arm. Max continued to lay into Takeshita afterwards, busting him open with the diamond ring until Danielson made the save. But somehow, that wasn't even the best MJF moment from the episode. In an interview backstage later on, he told a story about getting a BJ Whitmer from his prom night crush while driving really fast. He hit a telephone pole, totaling the car and knocking his date out. He came to as police sirens wailed towards him, and in that moment, looking at his blooded partner, he realized what kind of a man he was. He switched places with his date so he wouldn't get charged for dangerous driving. It doesn't matter how you win things, Danielson, it's that you win them that counts. Max is so three-dimensional. Over just the course of a few weeks, he's able to elevate his character from chicken S-word coward to psychotic, really dangerous comic book villain. He truly is a generational talent, but he did just confess to a felony on national TV, so you're going to want to lay low for a while. And of course, most importantly, I know everyone tuned in to see if this is still the case. The hard cam positioning is still in line with the bottom rope. That's 3 weeks in a row, and it's likely a permanent production change at this point. The Bunny appeared to be hurt in Jamie Hayter's relatively easy championship eliminator win. The show then cut back to Saraya and Tony Storm bullying Leva Bates, spray painting L for loser on her beaten up body. I find this incredibly one-dimensional and lame. At least it's told in order, which is more than I can say for Ricky Starks, the latest person to be sucked into the Chris Jericho mid-card vortex! After already beating Jericho clean in the first Dynamite of the year, dispatching most of the JAS in the process, the last month has been devoted to building Ricky Starks beating Jericho clean and dispatching most of the JAS in the process. This time round was the Garcia-Guevara gauntlet match, where Starks easily beat Angelo Parker and Daddy Magic, was on top facing Garcia, but a masked luchador knocked him out with a Judas effect from the front row to cost him the win. I wonder who that could be. It was Chris Jericho. 64% of luchadors are always Chris Jericho. Danielson found himself locked in the trainer's room with Takeshita when his match against Rush was supposed to start. It was a neat idea to beat the count, but the timing was off. Danielson getting out of the room super easy, barely an inconvenience, and then making it to the ring by 6. They proceeded to have a cracking match though, with Danielson gushing so much blood, it got on the camera, and Rush displaying his high-intensity charisma. The crowd got incredibly into the action, particularly with a strong-style headbutt exchange, but Danielson got the win with a second knee, confirming him to take on MJF at Revolution in a 60-minute Iron Man match. Max attacked Danielson afterwards, locking him in the salt of the earth. After somehow overcoming the Firm as their first title defense at last Friday's Rampage, the Elite took on Top Flight, who had scored a shock pinfall victory over the Bucks 2 weeks ago, with the Martin brothers being joined by AR Fox. But I can tell you who certainly wasn't tagging with anyone during this match: the concept of gravity. As you'd expect, the action was incredible, particularly letting AR Fox and Dante Martin shine. Omega only just got the win, failing to hit a one-winged angel, but scoring a technical pin instead, perhaps leaving room for a rematch. Stokely Hathaway cut a promo on Hook frustrating the Firm, but Hook, awkward, was right behind him.
Stop trying to make
the Firm
happen.
And the main event saw the Acclaimed defend their tag team championships against the Guns. Before I start diving into this, I just want to applaud AEW for putting this match on. If you remove emotion from it, these are two young, homegrown AEW teams, culminating a near year-long storyline, which has created some of the highest-selling merch in company history and gotten so hot the tag team titles were moved into the program at the expense of FTR. On paper, this is an incredibly effective example of long-term booking getting over new stars. Unfortunately, it's only got one half of the program over to the extent that they could lead the division. The other half, well, they still feel a bit ass, because the Guns, through many shenanigans and, to be fair, perhaps one of the greatest ref bump sells of all time, are your new AEW World Tag Team Champions. Thankfully, Daddy Ass didn't side with them. He actually stopped them illegally using the belts after the referee was bumped, but Colton knocked out his own father. Bones got a visible pin, but another title shot from Colton allowed Austin to roll up Anthony to get the win. The Guns are very good considering how long they've been wrestling. Austin in particular is both fantastic on the mic and a really good goofy seller, but they aren't incredible. Their only win of note was going over FTR 2 months ago. They needed way more solid wins on TV, and it really devalues the prestige AEW has built up around their tag division. But that's the point, you might say. The Guns' characters are undeserving, cheating, spoiled brats that are only there because of nepotism. Actually building them up to win the tag titles would nullify that character arc. And you know what? If you said that, you'd be right. That's where I think it comes down to a matter of taste. MJF's opening performance on this episode showed you can still be a credible threat in the ring and cheat. That's what I feel AEW excels at. That to hold a championship in their promotion, you do, at the very least, have to be excellent in the ring. It's the moral choices you make that determine the heat you get, which is why the Guns winning fell so flat. Sure, it got chants of Bull S-word, but that felt more a meta chant of the company's booking rather than the dastardly characters themselves. I'm not saying the Guns wouldn't have got there eventually. I'm actually a really big fan of them, but this is way too soon. I expect it to be a short reign and likely a way to get the belt onto a returning FTR come Revolution. What do you think of Dynamite? Let me know in the comments. I'm loving the MJF versus Danielson storyline, and the trios matches are spectacular, but that's about it currently in AEW. I think the tag title change will go down as a huge mistake long term. This week's Dynamite is 74%. But that's not all that's amiss in AEW's tag division. Watch on to find out about the Young Bucks' heat backstage. In this WrestleTalk news, AEW stars' relationship completely deteriorated, a WWE star suspended, a positive update on Jerry Lawler, and more.